Coming up, we tell you which countries are returning to lockdown.
And why the U.S. Justice Department is suing Google.
All that and more today, Wednesday, October 21st. Good morning, Emerson. I'm Mike Cerullo.
And I'm Adelaide Willert. We begin with this morning's top stories.
Europe is bracing for a second wave of COVID-19 infections. Specific hotspots in Spain and Italy are putting new restrictions in place, and Ireland begins another national lockdown today. Cases have been spiking throughout Europe during the past week. Officials have been expecting this second wave to produce a significantly larger number of cases than the first. And the World Health Organization says the death toll this winter could reach nearly 5 times what it was in April if proper safety measures aren't taken.
The Trump administration initiated a lawsuit against Google yesterday. This is the largest antitrust case in more than 2 decades. The Justice Department claims that Google is stifling competition in the online research industry. The lawsuit alleges that the tech company pays billions of dollars to device manufacturers and browser developers to be the default search engine. This deal also prohibits them from working with Google's competition. 11 states have backed the DOJ in suing Google, but a breakup of Google has not been ruled.
Construction of the Keystone Pipeline will continue after a federal judge Tuesday denied a request from Native American tribes to stop the project. The tribes are concerned the pipeline could damage cultural sites and harm the surrounding environment. The pipeline is set to run from Alberta, Canada, all the way to Nebraska and will cost around $9 billion. The project has already faced delays as the tribes challenged a permit granted by President Trump in 2019. They say the permit violated their rights and broke multiple treaties dating back to the 1800s.
Stocks are dropping as the Trump administration reaches its deadline for a new stimulus deal. Nancy Pelosi announced over the weekend that Trump had until yesterday, October 20th, to pass a new stimulus. Negotiations and discussion in the House began Tuesday afternoon, but no new stimulus has been passed and the stocks are still low. Dow has fallen by 411 points, a drop of around 1.4%. S&P has dropped 1.6% and NASDAQ has dropped by 1.7%.
And now for a weekly update on the COVID-19 pandemic. There's still hope for a COVID-19 vaccine before the end of the year. Moderna says the federal government could grant emergency approval for their vaccine after completing its phase 3 trial, which the Cambridge-based company says could happen by the end of November. Emergency approval would allow medical workers in high-risk communities to receive the vaccine first, but the general public would most likely have to wait until the spring before it becomes widely available.
With cases rising worldwide, borders are remaining closed. U.S. borders between Mexico and Canada will stay closed to non-essential travel. The two countries believe the closure will stay in place at least 1 more month. On Monday, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the U.S. does not have the coronavirus under control. He says, quote, "The situation in the United States continues to be of concern." The U.S. is now seeing COVID cases climb towards a new peak as flu season approaches.
Now we have our Campus Connect correspondent Simona Riccardi, who spoke to Maria Sato, a journalism student currently studying at home in Japan.
Hey everyone, it's Simona from Campus Connect. Today I'm going to be speaking with Maria Sato, who actually worked on Good Morning Emerson during her time on our Boston campus, and we're going to be catching up with her to see how she's doing out in Japan. Hi Maria, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. It's been a while since I've seen you. What have you been up to since March?
And I came back to Japan, Tokyo. I had to quarantine obviously for 2 weeks, and it was a slow, month, but gradually shops were opening and the government lifted up the restrictions.
You were supposed to work on the Tokyo Olympics for NBC, correct?
I was supposed to work on the NBC team for the Olympics this year. Unfortunately, the Olympics was postponed. We were expecting it to be canceled, but I just got an email from NBC that they wanted me back for this year's Olympics.
Has there been anything else that you've been up to while you're doing your classes?
Yes, I've actually had a full-time job slash internship at this National Broadcast Center in Japan. It's called NHK. I've always wanted to work there after graduation. It's a English spoken news program. And it's super interesting. I'm learning a lot in real time, and I sometimes have work until 9 p.m. So after that, I would have to go on Zoom meetings and do my homework. That I'm producing a show for WBN. I feel like I'm doing a lot, and it's gonna really help me in the career.
It's amazing that you are juggling a full-time job, plus full-time classes, plus extracurriculars. Is there anything that you're doing for yourself?
It's tough, but I mean, I always have friends here, which they know how I feel and they support me. And staying with my family has helped me a lot. I think it's a great way of spending and getting to know more about my family.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Maria. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to chat with us, and we really hope to see you next semester.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks, Simona. Now we head to our politics correspondent, Brilee Carey.
What do you have for us, Brilee?
Looking ahead to the next presidential debate, where the moderator will now have the ability to mute the microphones while the presidential candidates are speaking. The Commission on Presidential Debates says that microphones will automatically be muted for the candidate not answering a question. The hope is that this will allow for 2 minutes of uninterrupted speaking time to give voters a better sense of where candidates stand on key issues. The Debate Commission speaking about the candidate reaction to the new rules, saying one may think they go too far and one may think they do not go far enough. We are comfortable that these actions strike the right balance and that they are in the interest of the American people. The Supreme Court ruling that Pennsylvania can count ballots like these up to 3 days after the election. These ballots must be postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd. The tied 4-4 decision is a win for Democrats, who are expected to receive the majority of mail-in votes in the states. Republican legislators had argued against this ruling on the grounds that the Constitution requires each state to hold the election on the same day. So far, Pennsylvania has sent out over 1 million mail-in ballots to voters. The Department of Justice charging 6 Russian officers associated with the GRU with hacking. Those officials are charged in connection to leaks about the French presidential candidate Emmanuel Macron during the 2017 French election, security hacks in the 2018 Winter Olympics, and various other information breaches relating to businesses and hospitals in the United States. The Department of Justice Assistant Attorney General has called these cyber attacks, quote, the most disruptive and destructive series of computer attacks ever attributed to a single group. All 6 officers are wanted and suspected to still be in Russia. And President Trump announcing plans to remove Sudan's state sponsor of terrorism designation. The president announced the move on Twitter, saying that once a $335 million settlement for victims of bombings of U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya is paid, he will lift the sanctions. This will mean Sudan is eligible for more foreign aid from the United States and allies. The only other countries currently with state sponsors of terrorism designations are Syria, Iran, and North Korea. Back to you, Mike and Adelaide.
Thanks, Brilee. Family members of veterans who lived at the Holyoke Soldiers' Home testified at the State House yesterday. The facility is being investigated after becoming the location of one of the deadliest COVID-19 outbreaks in the country. 76 veterans have died at the Soldiers' Home since the outbreak began at the beginning of March, and family members say they received very little communication during the height of the pandemic. At this time, the facility has halted visitations after one resident tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday. The resident has since retested negative, but all staff and residents will be tested again for the virus as a precaution.
COVID cases are rising in the state of Massachusetts, so jury trials are being further postponed. Jury trials were initially scheduled to resume October 23rd. They are now expected to begin on November 9th at the earliest. Courts are working to follow CDC guidelines as they gradually resume. The current plan is to start with a limited number of juries of only 6 people, with only a few select courthouses open.
A protester was issued a stay-away order from Massachusetts First Lady Lauren Baker on Monday. Dominguez de Rosa placed used needles on the sidewalk outside of her house during a protest earlier this month. He says he wanted to bring awareness to the growing drug problems on Boston's Methadone Mile. Baker says she was incredibly frightened by the possibility of stepping on one of the needles. The judge Monday declared DeRosa's placement of needles outside the governor's home was not protected under the First Amendment by the right to protest.
In Worcester, Massachusetts, a man has been arrested for attempting to kidnap an 11-year-old girl. The girl said she was walking when the man, identified as Andrew Merriam, asked if she wanted to see his dog. He then grabbed her forcibly by the arm. Luckily, she escaped by kicking him in the legs and then ran to a local convenience store to call for help. She is returned to her family safely. Merriam is currently in custody and has been positively ID'd by the girl. His lawyer says, quote, he categorically denies the allegations. Merriam's bail is set at $1,000.
And now we head over to our Boston News correspondent, Sam DeCoste, for an update on reopening Boston Public Schools.
A Suffolk judge denied a request from the Boston Teachers Union allowing for teaching to continue remotely. Boston Mayor Marty Walsh announced he plans to pause the next phase of in-person learning in Boston as the coronavirus positivity rate in Boston eclipses 4%. The pause does not include special needs education for high-needs students. The judge stated, quote, the injunction sought by the BTU is not consonant with the public interest, end quote. The union filed the lawsuit on October 8th, arguing the school district has been violating their COVID-19 safety guidelines. The union argues the agreement between the school and the BTU states that the district would transition to full remote learning for all students when the city's positivity rate eclipsed 4%. The city's positivity rate currently sits at 6.1%. The Boston Public Health Commission decided that in-person learning for the district's high-needs students will continue while the rest of the student body learns remotely. Because of Wednesday's ruling, educators who provide services to high-needs students will have to continue in-person teaching. There are currently 2,600 students currently enrolled in Boston Public Schools. The rest of the district is remote. For Good Morning Emerson, I'm Sam DeCoste.
Thanks, Sam. When we come back, Joey DuBois will give you the update on all your favorite teams.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
Now we go over to our sports correspondent, Joey DuBois. What do you have for us, Joey?
Thanks, Adelaide. The Los Angeles Dodgers are off to a 1-0 lead on baseball's biggest stage in the World Series. Mookie Betts led the Dodgers to a Game 1 victory last night with 2 hits, 2 steals, and 2 runs scored. The Dodgers went on to win the game 8-3. LA entered the series as the heavy favorites after overcoming a 3-1 deficit in the National League Championship Series. The Rays held off the defending AL champ Houston Astros in 7 games to secure their spot in the World Series. Game 2 is tonight at 8 p.m. In local news, the New England Patriots are below 500 in October for the first time since 2002. Expectations were lower after Tom Brady left in free agency, but the arrival of Cam Newton led many to believe the Pats still had a good chance at sneaking into the playoffs. Now they have a 2-3 record and are on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. The Pats are dealing with plenty of adversity as Newton and star cornerback Stephon Gilmore tested positive for COVID-19 recently. The game against the Denver Broncos was pushed back a week, and they do not have a bye week for the rest of the year. And the task is not getting any easier as the reigning NFC champion San Francisco 49ers are up next for the Pats on Sunday at 4 p.m. Big Ten football is finally back. The league received plenty of backlash as seasons started up in the majority of the major college football conferences, while the Big Ten had already canceled their season. The league reversed course and now play will begin this weekend. The presumptive conference favorites and possible college football playoff contenders are the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by Heisman contender quarterback Justin Fields. Perennial contenders Penn State and Michigan are expected to be competitive as well. Big Ten football kicks off Friday night as Illinois visits Wisconsin at 8 p.m. In UFC news, Khabib Nurmagomedov defends his lightweight title on Saturday at UFC 254. Khabib holds the longest undefeated streak in MMA as his record is still a spotless 28-0. The American Justin Gaethje is the latest to challenge for Khabib's belt after his knockout victory over Tony Ferguson back on May 9th. The fight is Khabib's first in over a year as he last defended his belt in September of 2019 against Dustin Poirier. The fight is in Abu Dhabi and is expected to begin on Saturday around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Joey. Now let's go over to our entertainment correspondent, Amogh Matthews.
What do you have for us, Amogh?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Adelaide. The Voice returns, except this time the audience will be virtual, and the 4 judges, Blake Shelton, Kelly Clarkson, Gwen Stefani, and John Legend, will all be following social distancing guidelines. What's different this season is that contestants' families have to watch auditions virtually, and that the coaches can't get anywhere near the performers. Some fans are upset to see that Nick Jonas will not be returning as a judge. Regardless, fans are expecting a lot of talent to come out of this season. Season 19 started this Monday on NBC. The Voice is available to watch on NBC.com, the NBC app, or on Hulu. So, Disney just announced that they will be adding a disclaimer to some of its old movies that include racist stereotypes. The company says, quote, "These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact and learn from it and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together." Some of the movies to have these disclaimers include The Aristocats, Dumbo, Peter Pan, and even Aladdin. Disney follows a trend of rebranding in the wake of widespread protests for racial justice. Good for Disney. You guys ever hear a song but not remember the name of it? Don't you wish you could just maybe hum it to Google or something? Well, now you can. Google unveiled a new search feature last Thursday. It lets users search for songs by humming a few bars to help you identify the song. What's cool is that you don't need to be on pitch, or you can hum or whistle or sing for 10 to 15 seconds to get an answer, and that really helps me. Google apparently has been working on using artificial intelligence for music recognition for a number of years now. Creepy but cool. Actor Jeff Bridges announced that he has been diagnosed with lymphoma. The acclaimed actor took to Twitter to reveal to fans that although he has a serious disease, he will be beginning treatment and that he has a wonderful team of doctors. Jeff Bridges has a massive Hollywood career and has starred in over 70 films. Some big ones include True Grit, Seabiscuit, The Big Lebowski, and even King Kong. Bridges is currently the executive producer and the star in the FX drama series The Old Man on Hulu. He responded to fans by thanking them and reminding them to vote. That's all from me, folks, with entertainment news. Now we have our Boylston Bikes correspondent, Carlee Bronkema, who visited an Emerson favorite in Chinatown.
Are you looking to gain some winter weight before you hibernate? Double Chin Boston is the place for you. As the name implies, it will leave you with a double chin and an even bigger smile. We talked to the owner to find out more about their crazy menu.
Hi, I'm Gloria. I'm one of the owners here at Double Chin. I actually founded this restaurant with my sister, Emily, and our last name is Chin, so that's why this is called Double Chin. So prior to COVID, there were tons of students and young working professionals, and a lot of people would come here after going out to the bars and clubs because we're actually open till 4 on the weekend, but that was all pre-COVID. The majority of our revenue actually came from the late night crowd, and we're available for delivery through third-party partners during all hours of the day. During the summer, it was really hard for us because there weren't that many tourists or students around, but since September, we've been picking back up again slowly, which has been nice. So when my sister and I decided to open a restaurant, we knew that we couldn't be just another generic Chinese restaurant because there's so many of them in Boston, especially just within our neighborhood. We wanted to do something that was very unique. And since Emily and I grew up in Boston, we wanted to create a menu that embodied our Asian American identity. We ate our fair share of American junk food classics, but then we also had traditional Chinese food at home. So we wanted to create a menu that was very unique. When I was in college, I actually got into food photography and food blogging. So another thing that was really important to me for our restaurant was having food that not only tasted good, but that looked really good on camera. So on our menu, we actually have a little camera icon that indicates if something is Insta-worthy. And a lot of the inspiration for our dishes come from foods that Emily and I both enjoy, but wanting to bring an Asian twist to it at our own restaurant. Double Chin has everything from Chinese food classics to fun, unique Asian fusion twists that you won't find anywhere else.
But don't worry, if you eat too much delicious food, you can use your mask to cover your double chin. I'm Carlee Bronkema for Good Morning Emerson.
Thanks, Carlee.
Today we're joined by our musical guest, Avenue Beat. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you guys for having us.
So excited to have you on today. So can you tell us a little bit about your musical trio and how Avenue Beat came to be?
Yeah, so basically, long story short, we all grew up in the same small town in Illinois, Quincy, Illinois, and Svan and I have known each other since we were like babies, and then we met Sammy around 14 when we were doing like a musical theater camp. And we've just kind of been hanging out on couches singing songs ever since.
Awesome. That's very cool that you guys grew up together and you're still doing it. What inspires you guys to create music?
I mean, I guess it's kind of just whatever we're going through. We started writing songs together when we were like 14. So I think for us, it just kind of became a way to like work stuff out emotionally. Like it's kind of like our little therapy session. And so we'll just get together. We'll come in and be like, okay, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I want to talk about or sing about. And then we'll just like make it work. And that's kind of how we like to do it.
That's really nice. And that seems like it's a really good creative outlet. Your newest single, F 2020, went viral this summer, and people are calling it the 2020 anthem. What has been the most memorable part of this entire experience for you guys?
Will Smith.
I knew you were going to say it.
You're all thinking
Will Smith posting about it, honestly. Iconic moment for me.
Yep.
Check.
Nothing else comes close.
That is so much fun. And other than Will Smith, I mean, you guys have had countless duets, and it looks like so much fan creativity on TikTok. What are some of your favorite fan influences on your song?
There are people who it's really cool just to see people making their own art with something that we did. Like, you know, there are people who have made rugs with F 2020 on it, like handmade rugs, and other people who do incredible dances. And then it's just, there's such a wide range of stuff that people do with it, and it's really cool just to see how creative people get.
That's really fun, still super cool. So what does your song production process look like?
Savannah produces everything.
Yeah, I guess it just comes from the day that we're writing a song. I'll usually make a demo and a little instrumental track that day, and the song usually becomes what it is on the first day that we write it. F 2020 just kind of came out of the demo.
I guess usually it's Savannah doing the track and then taking lead vocal, and then Sam and I do the harmonies and then other added parts. It's so weird to try to dissect the process now, because we've been doing it for so long that I think we're just okay, now this happens. Okay, now I know what happens next. It's this and then this and then this, and it's so automatic.
Yeah. Well, it must be really nice to have that process in place. Do you guys have any new projects that we should be looking out for?
We have a bunch of new songs and new
So
music
many.
that we want to put out as soon as possible. So, yes.
Ooh.
That's very exciting. We're all looking out for that. Now, in your song, you guys say what a lot of us are thinking. Let's just skip ahead to 2021. What's something you're looking forward to the most for next year?
Gosh, I mean, if we got to go places and do things, I'm setting the bar real low here, guys. Just go to a place, do a thing, meet a person. Wow.
Wow.
Sounds incredible. That would already make my year.
What a concept.
What a concept.
Is there anything that you want people to know about F 2020 that they might not already know?
I guess just thank you for listening and streaming and
Yeah, maybe that's the thing,
Yeah.
is that we literally would not at all be anywhere near what's happening now if people just hadn't championed it and really liked it. This would not have been on radio if people on TikTok hadn't liked it and shared it with their friends. This would not be happening. So
thank you.
Well, that's a really nice place to wrap up. We want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been really wonderful having you on and being able to talk to you. When we come back, Avenue Beat is going to perform their song F 2020.
Stick around. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
Now here's Avenue Beat performing their song F 2020.
December 31st, I grabbed a beer, threw it up, said 2020 is my year. It's lit, yeah. And I honestly thought that was true until I gave this mother a month or two. everybody else, but I think that I'm kinda done. Can we just get to 2021, please? Low key F 2020. Okay, that was a lie. The problems I got are honestly probably not that bad when I compare them to some you'll have. But I'm just stating the facts. This year is just why emotionally I am lonely and anxious and mad. And if you feel me on that, low key F 2020. Still sad, still ain't got no money. I ain't got a watch up on my wrist. I just got something I gotta fix, yeah. Low key F 2020. I don't know about everybody else, but I think that I'm kinda done. Can we just get to 2021, please? Low key F 2020.
That was amazing. Thank you so much to Avenue Beat.
You can check out more of their music on Spotify and Apple Music. Now it's time for our happy news segment. With all the serious news in the world, we're taking this opportunity to share some lighthearted stories. A NASA spacecraft made history yesterday, becoming the first to engage in a touch-and-go mission with an asteroid. The OSIRIS-REx spacecraft landed for a brief moment on Bennu, a nearby asteroid. The spacecraft uses its robotic arms to collect a sample from the asteroid before taking off. The spacecraft will remain in Bennu's orbit until 2021, but is expected to return to Earth with the sample by 2023.
While running the Beaver Creek Marathon in Utah, Carrie Kelly found herself limping. She was only 4 miles into the 26.2-mile marathon. She was the last runner and struggling to continue, but prisoner Fidel Ibarra joined her. The prisoner on work release did more than just encourage Kelly. He went the extra mile, or actually the extra 22. Ibarra finished the race alongside Kelly, who was overwhelmed with joy at his kindness. She says she would not have been able to finish without him and was so impressed by his willingness to help her. Marathon director Amy Albrecht says everyone at the finish line was in tears seeing the two complete the race.
2,350 pounds. That's how much one Minnesota man's pumpkin weighed in at last week. Travis Geinger drove 35 hours to win the World Championship pumpkin weigh-off in California with his giant pumpkin. Geinger grew his pumpkin over the past year in the Halloween capital of the world, Anoka, Minnesota. He planted the pumpkin in April and nicknamed it Tiger King after the popular Netflix series. The pumpkin growing competition gives the winning gourd $7 per pound, meaning Eingen will walk away with more than $16,000 in prize money.
Singapore is trying to save their mangrove forest ecosystems. To do this, the city-state is committing to planting 1 million trees. The Singapore government is also sponsoring a number of other green city projects. These range from rooftop gardens to curbside foliage to the creation of therapy garden parks. These special parks will be around 10 minutes away from every Singaporean. They aim to meet the social, physical, and psychological needs of every citizen by reducing stress and providing a positive green environment. The target deadline is the year 2030, leaving the city around 9 years to complete this ambitious project.
Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning.
Have a good morning. We'll see you next time.